Sometimes, when certain people are confronted with the consequences of capitalism, they try to spin it in a way that puts the responsibility of capitalism's crises and faults onto the notion of corporatism or crony capitalism.
This is a typical poisoning the well tactic. For decades, we've had people blaming capitalism for the problems caused by corporatism. So how do these people respond? They switch it around and say we're the ones with our definitions reversed, but they never say why. Take a look at this dishonest idiot's rambling and you'll see.
Let's say that X is capitalism and Y is corporatism. There's no definable point where X, capitalism, becomes Y, corporatism. Therefore, there's no difference between X and Y.
Hopefully you're all already laughing at how stupid this is, but for those of you who still don't get it, take a look at this. This is a gradient, showing black on one end and white on the other. There is no definable point where black becomes white. Therefore, there is no difference between black and white. This is how stupid you have to be to believe this guy. Meanwhile, in this little place called reality, the way it works is many of the things we do are voluntary exchanges with other human beings, absent coercion. Look through your day and you'll find most of the things you engage in, you do so freely. Those exchanges are a part of capitalism. There are other transactions that people engage in that are regulated, restricted, or even banned outright, such as drug deals. Those operate in an environment of coercion and are not part of capitalism. So this isn't some big blob you can look at and call one or the other, like socialists and other small-minded state cultists do. We're individuals. We act individually, not collectively.
Basically, the argument fails to answer or even consider at what point does capitalism become corporatism.
Lie, 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 lie! We have repeatedly pointed out that it's capitalism when human interactions are voluntary. It's corporatism when government gets involved, subsidizing favored businesses, picking winners and losers, regulating industries, all sorts of things. These things interfere with the freedom of people to engage in voluntary exchanges. Therefore, they interfere with capitalism. Really, how difficult is this?
What characteristics of capitalism fundamentally change during this transformation from capitalism to corporatism? How are they fundamentally different?
If you don't understand this, then you don't understand the difference between rape and lovemaking, which makes you a potentially dangerous person. This is how the cult of statism turns people into sociopaths.
It ignores the evolutionary nature of capitalism and the complex organization of economy.
What are you talking about? Capitalism is based on spontaneous order emerging from complex organization. Geez, have you not even caught up to Adam Smith on this?
The argument basically makes the assumption that people within a market economy do not have an interest in mitigating risk.
Lie, 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 lie! Oh, it's rare I have to do that twice in one video, so this is how dishonest you are. Capitalism is based on profit and loss. Amazing how you people keep wanting to ignore that second part. People want to make a profit, but they also want to avoid losses. Therefore, capitalism has loss aversion, the mitigation of risk, as a way of balancing out the desire to profit. Corporatism and socialism, on the other hand, socialize losses so that people don't have much of an incentive to avoid risk. That's why problems happen in the economy.
And organizing to benefit from an economy of scale by pooling their resources.
Where did you even get this idea? People don't form groups and businesses absent government? Huh?
It's against all historical and scientific evidence to claim that market competition does not entail the corollary that there will be a market winner.
Well, then why don't you show the scientific and historical evidence? Maybe because you don't have any? McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Hardee's, Chick-fil-A, Bojangles, KFC, Arby's, Taco Bell. Who's the market winner there? People like Hakim are just too small-minded to be able to understand that life doesn't work in superlatives. What's the best fast food restaurant? It's up to you. Maybe you think it's McDonald's. Maybe you think it's Wendy's. Maybe you don't have much of a preference and you'll visit whatever restaurant you feel like at the time. Maybe you don't like fast food at all and won't visit any of them. These places and more are all successful because they're offering products that differ in all sorts of details. Some people like flame-broiled burgers and pick Burger King. Other people might like Wendy's burgers better. Some of them might really like McDonald's French fries. McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's all serve chicken, yet Chick-fil-A sells more chicken than those three combined, without even opening on Sundays, because they decided to specialize, and that specialization makes them more desirable to people who like chicken. So how does the very concept of a market winner have any validity?
Who will do what is necessary to maintain their position, which includes lobbying with the government to get preferential treatment.
And that is corporatism. A capitalist system is one where that isn't even possible, either because the government doesn't have the power to give them preferential treatment, as this country was originally designed under the Constitution, or there is no government and you're in a purely anarcho-capitalist society.
Coercive barriers against entry into the market from new competitors, etc.
You cannot coerce entry from competitors without government. Again, this is corporatism, not capitalism. Do you really not get the difference here? I mean, were we stuttering the last 50,000 times we libertarians pointed this out?
You'd only be prolonging the inevitable, that is, the formation of monopolies, a natural trend of capitalist development.
Again, monopolies cannot form without government help. Once again, see the last 50,000 times we've covered this.
The use of the state to serve the interests of individual capitalists, groups of capitalists, or the capitalist class as a whole, etc.
When it uses the state, it's corporatism! Knock it off!
It's really weird how the proponents of the free market preach the virtues of free market competition based on what they claim to be the fact that humans are self-seeking entities, yet at the same time they seem to expect stockholders and directors of major corporations to go against their economic self-interests.
Oh, another lie! We're pointing out that, in a free market, it is within their self-interests to try and compete the best they can.
Yet even crazier, proponents of the free market think that somehow capitalists should refuse to use their massive wealth and resources to obtain favorable treatment and other benefits from the state.
No, we think getting those benefits should be made impossible! Oh, this is beyond a straw man!
Capitalism is a mode of production.
Wrong! Capitalism is the private ownership and exchange of goods and services in a voluntary system absent the coercion of the state. It does not specify any specific mode of production. In fact, it incentivizes people to come up with different modes of production to gain an advantage in the marketplace.
It does not disappear one day just because the state passes new regulations.
It does because the definition of capitalism mandates the absence of regulations.
For example, the enclosure of open fields for sheep pasture in late medieval and early modern times.
Enclosure? Really? I thought you morons had actually abandoned that long-debunked argument. Have you ever had any discussions with anyone on the subject? Have you taken 10 minutes out of your lousy, miserable life to actually read about it? Quick summary. Enclosure was an act of parliament where people were kicked off of land they lived on, land that, under capitalism, they would have had a homesteading claim to, in order to give it to powerful landowners who were friends of parliament members or were even members of parliament themselves. That is in no way capitalism. In fact, it was a collectivization of agriculture that had much more in common with socialism than it did capitalism.
I'll leave you with this last note. If these people who claim corporatism are honest and truthful, then let them answer this. Are all the great things we have nowadays given to us by capitalism then, or corporatism?
And here, once again, he betrays the black and white thinking of the cultist. There is no room for nuance, no room for weighing costs and benefits, none of that. Everything that has ever existed has given us great things and terrible things. Slavery was one of the most terrible wrongs ever committed against innocent people, yet it existed for something like 7,000 years. Are you really going to say that there was no progress made during that time? Nowadays, many countries have banned slavery entirely, while it still exists elsewhere, including in places that contribute to the global economy. So let's turn your question around. Are all the great things we have nowadays given to us by voluntary workers or slaves? Do you really not see the problem with this line of thinking? I mean, is obesity among the poor bad because of the health problems that stem from it, or good because we're the first society where the poor aren't starving? Just as every drug has side effects, everything you could ever possibly do has unintended consequences. Some good, some bad. The question remains, who is going to face those bad consequences? Government directs the benefits to their cronies and the bad consequences to everyone they can get away with, or they socialize it across all of society. Whereas capitalism is the only system anyone has ever come up with where individuals are responsible for their own actions and face the consequences of the ill effects of whatever endeavor they engage in. Hey, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe and keep these videos coming by donating, becoming a subscriber and getting special benefits, or even for free with airtime. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.